My name is Avery Dawson, and apparently I've been too sensitive since the day I was born. That's what my mom used to tell me, with an eye roll and a sigh, as if I was just too much to handle. Too emotional. Too dramatic. Too inconvenient. But no one ever called Jace dramatic. Jace, my cousin, was 2 years older, taller, louder, and always surrounded by praise. The golden boy. Aunt Camille's pride. My mom's favorite nephew. The one who could do no wrong. When we were kids, they used to say he'd grow up to be a senator or something equally grand. You know the type. Charming, athletic, straight-A student, and practically glowing with that he's going places energy that adults eat up. He was also the first person who ever made me feel genuinely afraid. I still remember the first time. I was maybe 7, he was 9. We were playing in my room while the adults were downstairs having wine and pretending not to hear the chaos upstairs. Jace wanted the last turn on my new art set, and I said no. So he twisted my arm behind my back until I cried. Then he smiled. It was small, just a twitch at the corner of his mouth, but I never forgot it. That smile said, "I can do this to you, and no one will stop me." And he was right. Later that night, I went to my mom, my face still blotchy from tears, and told her what happened. She didn't even look up from her phone. "Oh, honey," she said. "Jace was just playing. Don't be so dramatic." That was the first time I heard it. Don't be so dramatic. It wouldn't be the last. As we got older, things changed. Not for him. He just got better at hiding the cruel side. Me? I learned how to lie. I lied with my smile. I lied when I said I was just clumsy after tripping down the stairs at Jace's house. I lied when I told my therapist I was fine. Jace would poke, prod, whisper things in my ear when no one was around, pinch me under the dinner table, flick his lighter too close to my arm when we were outside. Once, when I was 13 and stayed over at his house, he slammed my hand in the bathroom door because I was taking too long. My knuckles were swollen and purple for 2 weeks. But I knew better than to tell. Because when I had told, when I had tried, the response was always the same. He didn't mean it. He's just rough sometimes. Don't exaggerate, Avery. The truth is I was easy to ignore. I didn't scream. I didn't throw things. I just got quiet. And girls like me, quiet girls, are easy to forget. Jace, on the other hand, was unforgettable. Varsity quarterback by junior year. Church volunteer every Sunday. And that laugh. That perfect, polished laugh that made grown women call him a heartbreaker. I used to wonder how someone so loved could be so cruel when no one was watching. It made me question my own sanity. Maybe I am being dramatic. Maybe I just bruise easily. Maybe he didn't mean to shove me that hard. Maybe I was annoying. Maybe it's my fault. That's what emotional manipulation does to you. It makes you doubt your own body, your own memory, your own pain. But somewhere deep inside, beneath the fear and silence, a tiny spark kept flickering. The part of me that knew I wasn't crazy, that knew I wasn't making it up, that knew bruises don't lie. The worst part? My mom adored him. She used to say, "Why can't you be more like Jace?" when I got anything less than an A or forgot to do the dishes. He's so helpful, so mature, such a good influence. Good influence. Once, when we were both 16 and my family visited theirs over Christmas, he slammed me against the kitchen wall because I beat him at a card game. I had a faint blue mark on my jaw for the rest of the trip. I told my mom I fell on the ice. She laughed and said, "See? Always such a klutz." I felt like I was screaming underwater. No one heard me. No one saw. And no one wanted to see. But I saw. And one day I realized, if no one was going to protect me, I'd protect myself. So I started paying attention. That was the beginning of the plan, not revenge exactly. Not at first. Just survival. Quiet resistance. Small steps. I started writing things down. What he said. What he did. What time it happened. I started noticing patterns, how he only acted out when we were alone, how he'd instantly switch on the charm if someone walked in. He was good. So good. But I was watching now. And I wasn't a scared little girl anymore. I didn't have power yet, but I had patience. Because I knew the truth. And someday I was going to make them see it too. I became two different people. There was the Avery everyone saw. Polite, quiet, honor roll student, never the center of attention. And then there was the Avery who lived in constant alert, flinching every time a door slammed or someone's voice rose just a little too loud. I lived in a state of low-grade fear. Not just of Jace, but of not being believed. Of being laughed at again. Of hearing those same old words. You're overreacting. Stop being so sensitive. He's just playing. After all, how could anyone believe that Jace, the boy who led morning prayer at youth camp, could also be the same boy who once held a lighter to my notebook and said, "Next time it'll be your hand." No one ever saw it. That was the brilliance of his cruelty. He operated like a magician, with sleight of hand and a smile sharp enough to slice through steel. And I, his favorite disappearing act, was always left alone with the mess. Until I started saving the evidence. The first time I took a photo, I was 15. It was late summer, and I'd been at Aunt Camille's house for a family cookout. I had refused to go inside and grab Jace another soda, something I'd done dozens of times before, like some kind of invisible waitress. I said, "Get it yourself." He didn't like that. Later that evening, he accidentally shoulder-checked me into the edge of the kitchen counter. Hard. I couldn't breathe for a second. When I got home, I took off my shirt and stared at the purple bruise blooming on my ribs. It looked like a thumbprint, deep and ugly. I don't know what came over me, but I grabbed my old digital camera, the one Dad got me when I turned 13, and snapped a picture. I hid the camera under my bed. A few days later, I transferred the photo to a password-protected folder on my laptop labeled Algebra Notes. And that was how it started. I wasn't brave enough to fight back with fists or screams. That's not the kind of girl I was. But I was observant. I was smart. And most of all, I was patient. I started documenting everything. Not just the bruises, though there were plenty of those. But the words, too. The way his tone would switch like a knife flipping open. The threats, the mocking laughter, the way he made sure to only hurt me when no one else was in the room. I kept a running log in a notebook I hid behind the false bottom of my dresser drawer. I wrote down the date, time, location, what he did, and what he said. At first, it was just for me. Proof that I wasn't imagining things. But eventually, I realized I was building something bigger. A timeline. A pattern. A case. By the time I was 17, I had years' worth of evidence. And not just photos. Sometimes, I'd record audio on my phone when we were stuck in the same room. I never said a word, just let him talk. It wasn't hard to catch something. Jace was cocky. He liked to say the quiet part out loud. One recording, taken at Christmas, had him whispering in my ear, "If you tell anyone, I'll make sure they laugh in your face. You know they will. They always do." I labeled it Exhibit C. I knew what I was doing was risky. If he ever found out, if anyone ever stumbled across my files, I didn't want to think about what could happen. But the more I collected, the stronger I felt. Because every photo, every note, every minute of audio was proof that I wasn't crazy, that I hadn't imagined it. It was real. Still, I smiled at family gatherings. I played the part. I laughed at his jokes. I even hugged him when the cameras were out. The whole time, my skin crawled. I hated how well he played his role. And I hated that he still fooled everyone. Even people I loved. Aunt Camille still talked about him like he was God's gift to the world. My mom still called me moody if I got quiet around him. And every time I looked at Jace across a dinner table, my stomach twisted with a mix of fury and fear. But underneath all of it, I was planning. I didn't know how or when. But I knew one thing. I would not carry this silence into adulthood. I would not let Jace go through life hurting people and smiling through it. And I would not let the people who enabled him pretend they didn't know. One day, I would make them see what I had seen all along. And when I did, I wouldn't need to scream. I'd have the proof. It happened at Grandma Joe's 80th birthday, the day the curtain finally dropped. I had turned 18 2 weeks earlier. I was legally an adult, but I didn't feel like one. Not yet. Not until that night. Grandma's party was big, too big. The Dawsons and Callahans always made a spectacle of themselves, especially when there was something to celebrate. Catered food, floral centerpieces, a rented community hall, and a slideshow looping on a giant screen showing family photos from the past 50 years. And of course, Jace was there. Fresh off his first year at college. Tanned, taller than ever, and more smug than I remembered. He gave a toast at the start of dinner. Told a charming story about Grandma Jo teaching him how to bake cookies when he was 6. The room laughed and clapped. Aunt Camille beamed like her son had just cured cancer. I stared at the tablecloth, gripping my fork until my knuckles went white. I had planned for this, prepared for this, but still, I could feel the panic rising like a tide in my chest. My phone was in my purse, fully charged, files sorted, audio clips lined up, photos, notes, voice memos. I had spent the last 3 months building an encrypted folder labeled Family Album because I have a dark sense of humor, I guess. I didn't know exactly how the night would play out, but I knew this was my shot. Because if I didn't speak now, I'd never be able to. After dinner, people started to mingle, drifting between tables and gossiping about old neighbors and Facebook drama. Jace caught me near the drink table. I was reaching for a bottle of ginger ale when I felt his breath near my ear. "You look tense," he whispered. "Nervous about something?" I didn't flinch. He leaned in closer. "Still playing the victim, huh? You always were good at that." And then, just like that, he reached out and grabbed my wrist. Tight. Too tight. It was instinct at this point. Smile, freeze, don't make a scene. But something inside me broke. Or maybe it finally unlocked. I looked him dead in the eyes and said, loud enough for the people behind us to hear, "Take your hand off me, Jace." The grip loosened. He blinked. That perfect mask of his cracked, just for a moment. Then I pulled my phone from my purse. My hand shook, but I kept going. "You really thought I'd never say anything?" I said, my voice rising. "That I'd just let you keep getting away with it?" He smirked, still trying to bluff his way through. "You need help," he said. "Everyone knows you're unstable." I tapped on my phone screen. The audio file started playing, loud and clear. "You tell anyone, I'll make sure they laugh in your face." "You know they will." "They always do." Jace's voice. Crystal clear. The people nearest us turned. Conversation stopped. I looked around and saw faces shift. First confusion, then disbelief, and then realization. Aunt Camille stood frozen across the room, holding a slice of cake. My mom's wine glass slid from her hand and shattered on the floor. I pulled my sleeve up slowly and showed them the bruise on my wrist, already purpling in the shape of his fingers. Gasps. A few people started whispering. Someone said my name. Someone else said his. But I didn't take my eyes off Jace. "You've been doing this to me for over a decade," I said, voice steady now. And everyone ignored it, laughed it off, called me dramatic. Silence. For once, absolute silence. I left early. I didn't wait to see how the rest of the night unfolded. I didn't need to. By the time I got home, my phone had already exploded with texts. Cousins. Aunts. People who had no idea, who were so sorry, who wanted to talk. Some defended him, of course, but not many. Because once I sent the folder, the family album, there was no room for denial. Every bruise, every voice memo, every photo, it was all there. Even my mom couldn't deny it anymore. She came into my room that night, sat on the edge of my bed, hands trembling. "Avery," she whispered, "why didn't you tell me it was this bad?" I didn't say anything. I just looked at her. She broke. And for the first time in my life, she apologized. I thought it would feel like revenge, like victory. But mostly it just felt like relief. Not because they believed me, because I finally believed myself. All those years, I carried the weight of silence, of shame, of doubt. But I wasn't crazy. I wasn't dramatic. I was right. And now they knew it too. In the weeks that followed, my family unraveled. It wasn't dramatic, not the way I'd imagined it as a kid, when I used to picture storms of screaming and slammed doors.
No, it was quieter than that.
A slow, guilty silence began to creep into every conversation. Text threads died off. Holiday plans got postponed. People who had once called Jace their favorite nephew stopped mentioning his name at all. And for once, I didn't mind the silence. Because it wasn't directed at me anymore. Aunt Camille called once. Just once. It was a short, brittle conversation. She said things like, "We all make mistakes," and "he was young," and "you've always been sensitive." I didn't argue. I just said, "I hope you never have to feel what I felt," and hung up the phone. She didn't call again. Jace's name stopped showing up on social media. From what I heard, he dropped out of college a few months later. Apparently, his scholarship sponsors weren't thrilled when someone forwarded them the folder. I didn't ask who sent it. As for my mother, things didn't magically fix themselves overnight. You don't get back 18 years of silence with one apology. But she was trying. And for once, she wasn't dismissive or defensive. She sat through therapy with me. She read my journal entries when I offered them. She stopped calling me dramatic. And sometimes, that's enough. I didn't report Jace to the police.
People ask me why.
Here's what I say, because I didn't want revenge. I wanted freedom. I wanted to breathe without feeling like I was suffocating in a room full of people who refused to see me. I wanted to speak without second-guessing every word. I wanted to know that when I looked in the mirror, the girl staring back at me believed her own story, even if no one else did. Now I do. That's the kind of justice that can't be filed in a courtroom. My therapist once asked me what I'd say to younger Avery, 7-year-old Avery with her twisted arm and her tear-streaked face, and that horrible, mocking smile seared into her memory. I didn't have an answer for a long time, but now I do. "You were right," I'd tell her. "It was real. And you weren't too sensitive. You were strong enough to survive it, even when no one believed you. You saw the truth when no one else would. And someday you'll show them. And when you do, you'll never need their validation again." It's been over a year now. I'm in college, studying psychology. Not because I want to fix anyone, but because I want to understand. To help people who, like me, spent their whole lives being told they were too much, too dramatic, too emotional. Because sometimes, the ones who cry the hardest are the ones holding in the most. And sometimes, the truth doesn't roar. It whispers. And bruises don't always show right away. But they're there. Buried beneath silence, beneath fear, beneath the weight of being dismissed over and over again. Well, I don't carry that weight anymore. I left it behind, with the bruises, with the lies, with Jace. Because the girl I used to be was never the problem. She was the warning. And now, the world's finally listening. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Your support means everything. If this story touched you or made you think, please subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories.